Today I'm painting a master copy of Sargent's Lady Agnew of Lochnaw. This is a portrait that I have always really enjoyed. I think it shows a lot of the painterly aspects that I appreciate a lot in paintings and that I'm always trying to replicate in my own paintings. So a few years ago, when I first started my channel, I attempted this master copy in a much bigger format and with a much more rudimentary understanding of how oil painting worked. Doing that painting taught me a lot of lessons about how to work with oil paints and how to allow brushstrokes to indicate the image that you want to portray without necessarily getting all of the details exactly as they are in a photograph. It taught me a lot about color and how just because a color looks one way on your palette does not mean that it will look that way on the canvas with all of the other colors around it. So with doing this year's master copy, I wanted to challenge myself to get things a little more correct, particularly in the face, because if you have seen my previous video doing this master copy, the face is probably the weakest point, and it did take me a couple of tries to get it right. And even in this attempt, it is still taking me a couple of tries to get it right. To speak a little bit to my technique here, I'm applying the midtones first, and then kind of pushing the shadows and the highlights around as a secondary thing. I'm not trying to get all of the details in, I just want to put things in the right place. And you can see here that I've decided that my midtones were not quite correct, so I'm adding in a little more correct values. One thing that I've learned about oil painting is that hue and color don't necessarily matter as much as value does. If you can get the value down, the colors are secondary to that. One of the things that I really love about painting this particular portrait is her eyes are kind of uneven. They're not exact mirror images of each other, which nobody's eyes are, but I think hers are a little more pronounced. She's got that slight raised eyebrow and half-lidded eyes. And I think the expression is so interesting. I also really love the way that a lot of these gestural brushstrokes in the highlights, they almost feel so deliberately placed, but also haphazard at the same time. Like one flick of the brush and you have perfect highlight exactly where it was meant to be. And I think that is something that I want to work on more in my own paintings, is being confident with placing a single color in one brushstroke and having that be indicative of the image as a whole. So at this point in the painting, things are looking a little bit weird. But the more paint I put down, the more I could see what needed to be changed. Like if I fix one major issue and I step back and I look at it, then I can see all of the other minor issues behind it. So just taking it one thing at a time and focusing on one area of the face at a time to get the rendering properly down. The shape of the mouth was also something that I went back and forth on quite a bit. It's not a typical shape. She's kind of got a half smirk going on. And the shape of her lips is also quite flat on the top, which for some reason my brush just did not want to make that shape look good. But I got there in the end by kind of blending the skin and the lip line together, which is how our natural lip line works, right? It's not a harsh delineation usually, unless there's lipstick. One of Sargent's techniques is to use blending on the canvas between two shapes that are not harshly delineated. So for instance, the forehead and the hairline is a very soft transition when you look at it in person. So to mimic that, there's a lot of soft brush strokes blending those two tones together in the paintings. And it creates the effect of hair growing out of a hairline. And doing that around the lips, and particularly around the chin and jawline is a place where those shadows are kind of blended together. That helps to create the softer image in the, not background, but around the parts of the face that are not sharply in focus. Here I started to put in the background part of the chair, and I decided that I did not like what was happening, so I scraped it off really quickly. And I'm putting in that dark shadow where it is in the original painting. I think this was probably the most fun part of the entire painting as a whole, was putting in these little brush strokes to indicate the chair, the floral pattern in the chair. It's just very satisfying to see those very unfinished, unrendered brush strokes and to know exactly what it is. So here's the final painting. I really enjoy how it turned out. It, again, is not quite a exact copy of the original portrait, but I think it holds its own, honestly. If I were to do this again, I would definitely nail down the drawing stage a little more. I definitely think I need to work on my fundamental drawing skills. I am more inclined when starting a painting to skip drawing entirely and to just go right in with paints and sketch as I go. But when you're doing something like a copy or working from a reference, I think it produces much more accurate paintings to really nail down the drawing stage. Overall, I would say this is a huge improvement over the previous master copy. Although I do really, really enjoy that master copy, it was definitely one of the first that I attempted to do, first paintings that I attempted to do, and you can tell by looking at it. So it's good to have a more updated version, and I think I was able to complete it much more quickly. This was a much more manageable piece, and it took me a lot less time as well, so I really hope you enjoyed watching this little retrospective into an old video that I did and trying the same master copy for a second time. This was a really fun project for me to work on. So thank you so much for watching, and if you would like to go back and watch the old version of this video, it's linked in the cards above, and I will see you in the next video.